What is going on, my Modern Leadership Business Book Club? Super pumped up to bring you part 3 of Mastering Your Life Through Self-Coaching. Now, if you have not picked up our next book, which will be back here live next week on Thursday going down, we're going to be diving into Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. I will leave you the information on how to join the book club if you're not a part of the book club and you're watching this, and also the link to get the book on Amazon to make sure that you get the right one. And we're going to be diving right into that next. Now, today, we're diving into section number 2, which is the art of leading yourself, and finishing up the rest of the book, starting with chapter number 8. Now, first off, welcome to Modern Leadership, where we see things differently. We help entrepreneurs become modern leaders so they can excel both in their personal and professional lives without sacrificing family time or burning themselves out. One of the ways that I did that personally was through personal development, reading, growing, becoming a part of masterminds, spending a lot of money on one-on-ones, where I got to learn different skills and really learn from their own personal growth. And that's really one of the ways that we do that here on Modern Leadership. So if you're not a part of our Modern Leadership book club for business owners, for leaders wanting to become the type of person that people want to follow, definitely sign up. You can go to modernleadership.us/book club. You can join us for free as of this moment that we're recording this. But that's really what we do here on our channel too. So be sure and subscribe if you are in alignment with the mission of becoming better as a leader, becoming better as for me, a husband, a wife, a parent, whatever it is, like becoming the leader that actually really other people want to follow. So that's what we're doing here inside of the Business Leadership Book Club. And that's why we picked this book to really focus on mastering the art of coaching ourselves. Now, in section number 2, we talk about the art of leading yourself, and it starts with earning the right to lead. Now, from the previous week, and by the way, let me just full transparency here. This actually is a recorded video that we're showing live. So if we're going through this and I ask you guys questions, don't be weirded out if I don't answer or call you out, because a lot of times I will call out the people who share, who give us their insights into the book. I do want to hear that. But we're actually in Maui right now on vacation, and I want to make sure that I didn't have to go live at 6 o'clock in the morning in Maui. So this is going to be a recorded video. You can definitely come back and watch it later if right now is not a good time for you, but if it is, continue watching. And then also we will be back live 9 a.m. Pacific next Thursday, okay? All right, so earning the right to lead. Now, last book club, we talked about really the system of the 4 M's. It's really putting up boundaries and systems in place so that you can have a system to really be able to develop other leaders. If you haven't seen that one, definitely go back, rewatch it. Watch it or rewatch it if you saw it, if you only saw it one time, if you really want to make sure that you have that kind of system. Well, one of the things you do when it comes to leading is you have to be able to model the behavior, right? You have to be able to do the thing that you're asking other people to do. Otherwise, there's just a disconnect when it comes to influence because you're telling somebody to do something that you're not willing to do. Now, how I did that in how I earned the right to lead, like this page says, was really focus on these 3 areas that we're going to go into right now, where I started to basically go through the framework in this book. I decided, I committed to it. I started to take the actions. I understood what my subconscious mind was doing. I learned how to coach myself to take more action. I learned how to stay consistent, right? All of the things, setting up systems and boundaries and leaning into self-confidence, I was able to crush these 3 areas. So now people come to me, even though I screwed them up for a long time, wanting to know how I can help them. It's the same possibility for you if you're willing to be able to lead yourself and coach yourself to earn the right to lead. Okay, now these 3 areas, my physical and mental health, taking control of my time, and creating a legendary family connection. Now we're going to go through these one piece at a time, and that's what I did inside the book. You can definitely read a lot more about than what I'm going to be sharing here. I'm going to keep it super short. But really, I really want you to see how I tackle all 3 of these areas, but in a way where there's kind of like a system that you're going to see here from what I use to get myself to show up. And it's something you can apply in any area of your life. Now, how I break this down is I break it down into tactics and mindset. And this is really how my brain works, is I realize that to everything that I want to be able to accomplish, there's both the mindset and the tactics. Now, in the first part of this book, we talked all about mindset, right? Understanding how your subconscious mind works, why you're going down that path of your story, how the push method works, like how all of these things can like be reframed and how we can take ownership of our part of the equation, right? But then comes the tactics. It's like, here's the things for you to do, right? Now, a lot of people start with the tactics, especially when it comes to losing weight. They're like, well, which workout could I do? Which nutrition plan should I follow? Which diet should I have? Have you ever done that yourself? Where you're like trying to go to all of the tactics, but you don't have the right mindset to stay consistent or to approach it with a level of energy and excitement and consistency that needs to be approached at? And so I always tend to go to the mindset first, because it's often what people like, and when I say people, I also mean me, it's what we think about last, but it's also the most important of all. When I think about being 34 years old, being 100 pounds overweight, being like not having control of my time, not having control of my family, and the family connection was like not where it is today, I realized that a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was my mindset. I wasn't taking ownership of things, and I wasn't thinking about things in a way that a leader thinks about things. I was thinking about things as how a non-leader, how a follower would, and how like, oh, woe is me, and being the victim, and end up like actually manifesting that. So when I think about these tactics and mindset, that's what I want you to approach everything that you do, even when it comes to business. Like, is it the tactics that you need for the business? Like what to say in that message? Or is it more the mindset of like, oh, I've just got to get out there, have a lot of communication and have a lot of messages back and forth. And as a result of that, I will know how to communicate because I've just done it so many times. And it's kind of like always this dichotomy of the tactics and mindset. All right. Now, when it comes to physical and mental health mindset, let me just describe a little bit about like how I think about mindset. Mindset for me is really the collection of stories in my brain that gets me to feel something about a certain situation, and of course gets me to take certain actions, right? But for me, the mindset is the collection of stories that my brain has up here. The great thing is like the ones that pop in immediately, I don't have to actually elevate those and give them my time and my energy. I can actually find a different story, which is what we talk about, head versus heart, right? Being able to lean into my heart and actually get me to show up and do the things that I want to do, even though my head is trying to convince me not to, all right? But I still understand that my mindset is the collection of those stories, all right? Now, here's how I started this part out, where it says physical and mental health mindset on page 63. It says, first, let's chat about personal development. Continuing to grow no matter what area we are talking about will help you generate more mental energy. One of the things that did help me generate enough energy was to put myself into a personal growth atmosphere. So when it comes to personal growth, what they say is like personal growth is only true personal growth if it affects every area of your life. But when you read personal growth, basically think about it this way. You're actually absorbing some of the stories. You're absorbing some of what the teachings and the trainings. You're absorbing some of the beliefs that the person who's writing the book is giving to you. I don't know if you thought about that. Did you know that Mark Hildebrand is actually giving you thoughts and stories and beliefs and stuff in this book? Did you know that Brene Brown did that in Dare to Lead, which was our last one? Did you know Jocko Willink is going to be doing that in the next book? They're offering you a different belief, a different thought, a different story to get you to feel a different way, to get you to take different actions. And if the personal growth book is in alignment with you and your mission, and you understand that it's doing this, I hope that you're letting it do it, right? Because what would have happened if we read all of Dare to Lead and we were just like, nope, this doesn't apply to me. Nope, this doesn't apply to me. And we would have had a closed mindset. It would have been like, why even read the book, right? But having that open mindset helps you when it comes to you developing the mindset you need to in other areas of your life. So while I was reading The Combat Effect by Darren Hardy, The Slight Edge, like all of these books like about consistency, Atomic Habits, all this stuff, right? I was actually becoming the type of person who was taking those kind of actions because it was seeping in here and it was really getting into my belief system. And I would they say belief drives behavior. I would start taking actions that's in alignment with the type of person that I want to become. So when it comes to my health and fitness, doing it, and it comes to my business, it comes to my parenting, being able to just read personal development helped me in all of those areas because it made sure my mindset was on point. The next one was the power of consistency. That's what I was talking about when I read The Compound Effect first. It's like it's not the massive actions that you take. It's the small actions that you take every single day that seem insignificant that make the biggest impact in your life. And so for me, what this got me to do, which we'll probably talk a little bit later in a few chapters, is to come up with a tracker, a way of tracking those small activities, to know when I did it, to know when I didn't do it, to make sure that I'm like, these are the most important things for me to do, and not be able to trick myself into not doing them. So the power of consistency, of course, is critical. And then the third mindset shift that helped me stay consistent was reminding myself of who I'm fighting for. This is one of those things where, like if you've ever been a one-on-one client of mine, you've been in any of my masterminds, you've been in any of our master coach training programs or whatever, you know that this is called our heart voice. And I can ask you a question to immediately shift the energy and the excitement and the inspiration in you by finding out how you tick. So some of those ways, and I'll ask you a few different questions here to really like contemplate this, is to find like what your version and flavor of your heart voice is. We talked a little bit about limiting beliefs and how they can actually get you stuck, right? Well, there's flavors of limiting beliefs that you have that come up all the time because they know they have the power over you. So if you're just limiting belief is like, I don't have the time, or I'm just not good with around people, or whatever, and that's your go-to, it knows that it can convince you not to take action. It's going to keep happening over and over and over again. I like to actually use our brain forest though and say, what was it that actually drove us to take massive action? What was it that made us feel the fear and take action anyway? And then let's keep doing that. And that's what I do as a life coach, as a push coach, as a performance coach, as a business coach, is I help you find those thoughts and then figure out what the actions are. And then we go out there and take them, right? Some of the different ways that I do this for myself is I say, what about being healthy, or what about being healthy was important to me and my family? So if I was trying to connect the dots on like why I needed to show up, I would make it about other people. So when it comes to my health and fitness, what got me to be on track is I kept asking myself, what about being healthy is actually important to my family? What about being healthy is important to the world? What would I be giving up if I didn't get after it today and do my workout? And when I started to do that, when I started to ask myself that question, it fueled me with my heart voice, because for me, purpose and potential are my heart voice. It's like, I need to model the behavior for my kids. I need to model the behavior for everybody else. By the way, who wants a coach who can't get him coach himself to do those things, right? Who wants a health and fitness coach who is not actually getting after it and taking action? Not that it's not results based, by the way. So many people are like, well, if you haven't lost 100 pounds, you can't teach people how to lose weight. That's incorrect. You can 100% do that. But if you're not taking the actions, it is definitely much more difficult for your brain to convince you to go tell other people to do that, all right? But when you can, like, for me, really capture my family, and I put my family in like the impact that I'm going to make for them, I will get myself to do anything. That's my flavor, and that's how it works. So find out what your flavor is, okay? Now, a couple different things is at the end of this chapter, I talked a little bit about personal growth and asking yourself a series of questions to find out, like, in a moment, in a time when you have felt on point, when your mindset was on point, you were like, I was like unstoppable. Like there was something in my brain that just was like kept going and going, going. I want you to ask yourself a few questions. What were you reading, listening to? Who were you hanging out with? Who weren't you hanging out with? What were you doing that made you feel that way, like you were on point? And how can you act on this exercise, on what this exercise brought up for you? So I have a few different exercises in here, and I know I talked about it before, but I have an entire workbook that is inside of the free app that you're in by being a part of the book club. Literally has all of these down in one place. Definitely download that, get into the app, go to the current book that we have, Mastering Your Life Through Self-Coaching, or go back if it's in the future, right, you're seeing this, go back to it and download the actual workbook so that you can have all of these exercises all down there for you, okay? So that's the mindset part of getting myself to show up. Now, here's the thing. I told you for like 30 plus years, I was hit or miss with the gym. I was hit or miss doing health and fitness. I was hit or miss like losing weight and gaining weight, up, down, up, down, up, down. And it wasn't until I do those things that gave me the power to find these other things, which are the actual tactics that we're going to talk about here today. Now, I want to talk to you about not the specific workouts I did, which is what a lot of people want to. And if you do want to have that conversation, reach out to me. But I want to talk to you about the principles that matter when it comes to your physical and mental health, all right? The first one is exercise and movement. I want you to really think about these on two different terms. Exercise is like what you do for like 30, 45, 60 minutes, right? It's like intense, like weightlifting or HIIT or going out on a run, those kind of things, right? And then you have your movement. People group these together. I want them to be separate, because what I realized is when I was like really losing weight, it's because I was doing exercise for about 45 minutes a day and I was getting movement. I was doing more than 10,000 steps. And those were the baby things that actually grew up into me being able to lose 100 pounds. Was starting off with just focusing on something I can do for exercise. It was just something that was going to push me. It doesn't have to be specific. It could be dancing. It could be whatever it is, right? But doing it consistently and then getting in movement and separating those two pieces and not making them be one or the other. It's always both, all right? The second piece was my nutrition, all right? So that first piece is exercise and movement. The second part was my nutrition. Now, there's a couple things that I don't agree with when it comes to like nutrition coaching per se, even though I am a precision nutrition level 1 coach. And that is like, some people have this thought, like I did, like I can't enjoy my food. If I want to be able to achieve my results, like the best results, then I'm just going to have to eat food that I don't enjoy. And that is false news. You have to just be willing to try new things and find things that taste terrible. By the way, broccoli crusted pizza, I hate it. It's disgusting. I will never eat it again. But there's many other ways that I found to make pizza that make it way healthier than it used to be for me when I used to have it. And I don't eat it all the time because it does upset my stomach, but I still don't remove it. I still want to have some regular things in my diet and actually be able to enjoy what I eat, all right? So I don't agree with removing foods that you really enjoy. Now, I do think about like, what can I substitute? Like if I used to have like really big juicy burgers, like what kind of like meat could I use instead of that? I mean, could I use something that's plant-based? Could I use something else entirely different? Could I make it a little bit healthier? Could I not use regular cheese? Could I use something else? My brain does go into like, how can I make this healthier, but also have it be something that I enjoy rather than just remove it. Now, I also say that I will sometimes eliminate things. So for example, if I have something that I really love and I still eat it maybe like once a month or something like that, and it just really like hurts my stomach. I have Crohn's disease, by the way. So there's a lot of things that do that to me. I just make a conscious decision of saying, I'm not going to eat that. But it's not because somebody else told me not to. It's a real different caveat there. And it's kind of ego-based, but also like I want to make a decision. I want to take ownership of it. And if I'm not going to eat it, I'm going to make a decision, not somebody else on the outside telling me, right? And so for me, it's like I'm owning it, saying, you know what? That is actually not making me feel good. I'm just going to remove it. Who knows? Maybe I'll put it back in later, but I just feel like I still have more control over it. And I have done that for plenty of other things, but you get to decide, right? The last part is like, I also love to use supplements to fill the gaps. So I use a nutrition shake. I use different things that make it easier for me. I use a healthy pre-workout to help me get going. Also, sometimes I'll sprinkle a little bit in for calls like this to make sure that I have energy for you guys. But I will bridge the gap of my nutrition when it comes to my food. I try and eat primarily all whole foods, but I will drink one nutrition shake a day and supplements if there's like pieces of my diet that I can't really get from regular food. Especially with Crohn's disease, I have to have like special vitamins and things like that I need to take because my body just doesn't digest regular food so well. But that is like an individual and personalized thing. If you have any questions about that, definitely reach out, okay? The third tactic that I use, we talked about the fitness piece, which is fitness and movement and exercise. We talked about the nutrition piece, which is like find stuff you love and enjoy and make adjustments and tweak it and find supplements to help you out. But there's the nutrition component, right, of finding something that's going to work for you. And the third piece is accountability. This is something that in every single other area of my life has been a game changer for me, as well as my nutrition and my fitness and my health. When you start hanging out with people who make their health a priority, it's very easy for you to continue to make your health a priority. You start hanging out with who I was hanging out with on duty, which is like people who didn't want to make their health a priority, would eat pizza all the time at the same exact place every single time we would go out there. It's very hard to get myself to do that more consistently. So you set yourself up for success by the environment that you're in. If you want to be successful in business, have an environment that successful business owners are in, or at least business owners are in, right? Business owners who are taking action, who are headed in the right direction, right? That's why we have mastermind teams. That's why we have even one-on-ones. Like find a coach who's been there, done that before, and really lean into them, get some one-on-one coaching, help them speed up the process for you, because that accountability is key. Oftentimes our brain, what it'll do is for a limiting belief, it'll convince us we can do it on our own. And that is not true. I've never found any situation where I have been better off on my own, even though my brain convinces me of it all the time. It's always the opposite direction, all right? So if you've ever done that, I want you to have no shame, guilt, humiliation, but find out like, oh, okay, so that's what you're trying to do. So now I'm never going to do that again, all right? I can tell you that since I did that, it definitely has been a game changer for me, okay? All right, so that was the first piece related to the fitness and nutrition. Next, we're moving on to owning your time, all right? We're going to go through this a little bit faster. It's already been 21 minutes. We're going to dive into the time management mindset, all right? The first mindset is some things matter more than others, all right? Now, I dive into here, and actually in the workbook, I have an entire thing where I have you figure out like what it is that matters more than others, how to like reverse engineer it and everything. So definitely go into the workbook for that. But basically, what I want you to really take from this chapter is that some things, the 20% of activities that you do matter more because they produce more results when you do them. This is kind of like when you're working your business, they're called income producing activities. They're the things that actually move the needle forward. It's probably not designing your website. It's probably not redoing your business cards. Those are the 80% that just move the needle a little bit. But when you can identify the things that are the most important to you and you can take the time to either outsource, eliminate, or remove all the other ones and do more of the things that make the biggest impact, you're going to get more results, all right? And you're going to do it in less time. It's the same with family. When you think about like the total of 100% of the time you're spending with your family, 80% of the time is like when we're driving someplace, when we're just watching all TV together, when we're eating together, or we're just like doing laundry and stuff around, or whatever it is that you're doing at home, right? But the 20% activity is when the TV's off, you're playing a board game, maybe going on a walk like I just did with my daughter. You're spending that really high quality time, that 20% time, and that creates the 80% connection that you have with your family. So being able to have a way to identify that is the reason why I wrote this chapter. And I literally have that roadmap for you inside of the workbook, okay? All right, chapter number 10 is creating legendary connections. Let's start off with a mindset of creating legendary connections, all right? Now, I did this a couple different ways. I joined an actual mastermind team for 2.5 years to become a better father and a better husband. And I still have a lot to go, but I learned so much through that process of hanging out with other people who also wanted to be great fathers and husbands. It's amazing how much easier it is to take those actions, all right? Now, some of the things we did while we were in there is there's this part of it when you first join that he wants you to, and by he, it's Larry Hagner, Jason, and Jeff. They were a 3-part team. They want you to answer a question, and it was based off of legacy. And they said, what do you want your family to say about you when you're no longer here? It was one of those things where they actually made us write this eulogy in the form from one of our family members. And it was a game changer. Yes, everybody in the room was like crying, but in reality, it was like, well, you have an opportunity to rewrite it now. Because if it's not in alignment with the person that you want to be right now, that's cool. That's why we're all here, right? So the next one was another mindset shift, was the and versus or, okay? This is a big thing. You're going to see it in all of the things that I do here on Modern Leadership. You're going to see it like if you have a one-on-one contact with me, like I'm going to point it out if you tell me there's an or situation. But when you realize that the power of words and you say that, well, I can do this or that, I can spend time with my family or do this. I can either succeed in my business or succeed professionally. We don't realize we're saying this, but when we use the word or, we're literally, our brain is telling us there's only one answer. And the answer is like one of these, you have to pick one of them. It's never an or, it's always an and. So I will ask you, how will you be able to excel at the 75 hard and be able to spend more time with your family? That was a question that I asked myself because I realized doing the 75 hard, awesome program, right? But you got to do 2 workouts, one of them outside, 45 minutes each workout, and they have to be separated by a certain number of hours. I'm like, how am I going to be able to do that? Because when I get home from work, I'm exhausted, but also like that's my family time. My brain could have said, well, Mark, you could either do this or you can be a good dad. And instead I was like, no. There's an and in there. Let me think about what this is, right? And so I asked myself for probably a couple of weeks, like, how can I do both? And the answer was, I just took them out on an outside walk every single day for 45 minutes. Oh, and also it made me better connected to my family because I did the 75 hard. But it's because I had that and instead of an or, which is where my brain wants to send me, all right? That's really why, as family, we have to make sure that we lean into, yes, we want to have business success. I want you to have the most massive success, so much so that like people are literally talking about you for generations. But also, I want you to have success when it comes to the people that you live with, right? Your family, your significant other, your friends, all those things, right? And you can do both if you're willing to like plant the belief in there, okay? Now the tactics. The tactics are, 1, the level of questions that you ask people, all right? That you ask your family. If you're into the, how was your day? Oh, hey, what's going on? Those kind of questions. How was school? Those are going to be 1-word answers, unless you're my daughter, and then she can go on for a long time with those questions. But most of the time, you're going to have very, very limited conversations and connections based off of those questions. How we frame the questions is important. This is one major component that we teach inside of our life coach certification. Not only how you can ask questions to really connect with your family, but how you can ask questions to help business owners, to help health and fitness people who are trying to get healthy, like get to the bottom of what's actually keeping them stuck and help them come up with a plan to be able to tackle it, is by asking powerful questions like this. But since this one is related to family, I have an entire list of, I think there's like 40 or something different questions that I ask my family that I have for you in the workbook. I definitely want you to grab, but I want you to like give you this one caveat today. Or I want to give you an example of one today and give you an idea of like why it's like this. Okay. So one of the questions that I like to ask is, what made you smile today? Now, that is something I ask so many times that my kids are kind of getting used to it, but it's something that I always bring up because it's a very easy way of seeing the possible answers to this question. Now, when I ask somebody what made them smile today, there's a lot of psychology. It's the psychology of coaching that goes into that question. It means, number one, is I'm assuming something made you smile. People in their brain now automatically go, well, something must have made me smile. What is it? And then they go back to that experience. They re-experience it, which guess what? Makes them smile again because their push method is working, right? They thinking about it again. They have the facts. They have a thought about it. They have a feeling again in their body. They get excited about it. They smile, right? And I'm letting this happen because of the question that I ask. And then they're telling me about it, which shares that beautifulness with everybody else who's in the room who has an opportunity to listen. Notice I didn't say, did you smile today? Which is, you wouldn't realize it, but you're leading them down the wrong path if you're asking those kind of questions. And this is why life coaching has changed my life so much, because when I can ask myself a question that comes and produces an answer that I really do want, it's powerful how I can get myself to take action, but it's also powerful how I can lead and get other people to take action too because of the level of questions, all right? Now, the final tactic is listening, all right? Listening. There is a video on YouTube. I'll actually link to it below. It's called, It's Not About the Nail. And really what it kind of like makes fun of is this fact that I know me personally and a lot of other people, we get into the mindset of fixing things. Like somebody brings this to me, so they must want me to fix it. But if it's your family, more often than not, they don't want you to fix it. If you get into, these are the 3 steps you could take. If you're like my YouTube channel right now, like, and the person like actually doesn't want to find the answer, they just want it to verbalize with you out loud. They're going to be like, you never listen to me. That's what that video is kind of about. It's a kind of like satire, funny way of like getting people to go, oh my gosh, like that is hilarious, right? But in reality, that's what we try to do. We try to fix. So one of the best tactics you can use, other than asking great questions, is to just listen. Now, I can tell you I'm still not great at this, but when I get to those points, in those moments, I make sure that I ask my kids, Teresa, hey, is this the time that you want me to listen? Or do you want me to offer some suggestions? And I can tell you more often than not, they're like, just listen. And that is a powerful, powerful tactic when it comes to leading your family. All right, last one, section number 3 is the art of leading others. Boundaries, all right? 2 of the most valuable resources we have are time and energy. They also flow together because when I have energy, it always gives me more time. And when also the more time I take for myself, the more energy that I have. How you protect this resources is by becoming great at setting boundaries. Now, I have literally an entire framework in here for how to set boundaries, but I want to go through really quickly like what I mean by boundaries. Boundaries is something that you set for yourself, but it's also something you set for somebody else. If you don't have boundaries in place and somebody infringes on them, number one is they don't even know they exist. They don't know where the line is around your house, and they've infringed, and then you respond with anger or resentment or frustration. It only creates more disconnection. So not only is it good for you, but it's also good for them. Now, when we think about setting up boundaries, I have a little framework that I have in here about how to set it up. The first thing you want to do is define what the boundaries look like, all right? Sometimes you actually have to sit down and figure out where the lines are around your house before you can tell somebody like, hey, these are the boundaries, because I haven't even sat down to figure out what they are, right? At what point do they become, you shouldn't step over this boundary, and yes, this boundary is like, it's okay that you don't, here's the thing, like sometimes we don't even realize that we don't have boundaries. Our brain kind of thinks we do have boundaries, and then we kind of hold people to things that are like invisible, right? And so being able to sit down and ask myself like, okay, where are the boundaries here? All right. The second thing is to come up with a way of having a conversation about those boundaries. Here's how we do this in 2 steps. Number 1 is you ask them to stop doing the thing that infringes on your boundary. Okay. The second part is I tell people what I will do if they don't comply. This is not an ultimatum. An ultimatum is like, if you don't do this, I'm going to take you're going to do whatever. I'm going to take your Xbox or whatever away, right? It is something related to me that I'm going to personally do, not necessarily like an ultimatum for somebody else. It's like, if you come over and like you're unannounced and it's not a time for family, I'm not going to be able to answer the door. It's ways, and I have a bunch of different ideas and stuff and descriptions inside of the book that you can pull, but it's ways of setting it up so that they know where the boundaries are and what you will do, not what they will do. All right. It's what you will do, because that's really, remember, the only thing that you can control, right? Getting really good at setting boundaries around overtime, setting boundaries around time around your business, setting boundaries around what people can call you and when can they message you and how often you will get back and how quickly you'll get back, like setting boundaries around social media, like all of these things. Follow these boundaries, all right? And a lot of times it's boundaries even with yourself. So instead of you having to communicate with somebody else, you have to communicate with yourself, all right? All right, chapter number 12, self-confidence. There's a difference between confidence and self-confidence. This chapter kind of like breaks it down. I want to go over it super quick for you guys here. But really it's the willingness to trust yourself, okay? So when it comes to confidence, confidence is based off of the past. It's not, I don't want to say it's always head voice, but it's based off of, well, I've done this before, so I feel comfortable and confident to do it again. So if I feel like, hey, I've drank this before and I haven't spilled it, like I'm pretty confident I'm going to be able to drink it again and not spill it. But it has to be based off of something we've done before. That's where confidence comes from. Self-confidence comes from a different place. It doesn't mean you have to do that thing. As a matter of fact, it's having complete confidence in yourself despite any outside evidence or having done it before, knowing there's only two possible outcomes. Either number one, you do it right, or number two, you learn and you grow. Those are the only two things you could do. Taking on like a crazy speech that you're going to do in front of 500 people. Well, I have full confidence in myself because I know I'm either going to do it right and I'm going to learn so much. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to like, hey, I'm going to learn what to do, or I'm going to do it potentially wrong, but I'm going to learn so much from the experience that it's going to make it even better for the next time. When you realize there's only two outcomes and the worst thing that could happen is a feeling in your body, if you make a mistake, if the tech doesn't go right, like this is just a feeling in your body and you can get over it. There's more people to help. There's more people who are struggling right now. There's more people who need you in their life, right? And by doing this, by being uncomfortable, like that is truly where the game changer is. It's like, it's not that you're unwilling to feel the fear, but you're willing to feel the fear, but do it anyway. That's where self-confidence really comes from. And if you look at the most self-confident people, they don't have to have done something before to have confidence in themselves. They know that when they get out there and they do what they need to do, they're either going to do it right or they're going to learn and grow. And I don't know about you guys, but the things that I learned and grow through, the things that I messed up for a long time, which is like literally this entire book, I wrote a book about it now, right? Isn't that crazy that like literally haven't screwed this up for 35 years? It's like 3.5 decades, and then only doing it well for 12 years. And now I get to write a book and people like listen and go, wow, this is so awesome, right? And it's because I struggled through it and it was very, very difficult, okay? So leaning into your self-confidence, realizing that you don't have to have any outside evidence. All you have to do is be willing to feel the fear and do it anyway, okay? Super proud of you guys for doing that. All right, number 13, pulling it all together. When I wrote this chapter, my publicist was like, this is awesome. I've never seen anybody actually do this, and I'm going to recommend it a lot more in the future. And I don't know why I did this, but I always find this thing where like when you're reading personal development or personal growth, there's not a chapter that says, and this is how it all applies together. It kind of feels like you're learning all these things, and at the end, it's just kind of like a end, and here's my next thing if you want to do it. And I'm going to talk to you about that, by the way. But when I was writing this, I was like, but I want everybody to see how this applies in totality, not just chapter 1 and chapter 2, chapter 3, but like the entire thing. And that's why I wrote this chapter, is pulling it all together, right? So I said, I wanted to make this final chapter to explain how things all fit together and then talk about the next step. So I want to go through this real quick in this framework so you have an idea of what I mean by putting it all together. So first off, the first thing we talked about is deciding. Once you decide and you make a decision, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get better in this area. I'm going to grow this. Then it's about taking ownership of your part of the equation. What part of the equation do you need to take ownership? What part of it is your part that you can take ownership of so you can change it? We start by taking ownership by using the push method. We work through the process of the push method. I taught you a little bit here. For a deep dive, it's our life coach certification. I'll leave you a link if you're interested in doing that. We are having another round that's starting right now. But if you're somebody who like doesn't fully understand the push method, it's okay. Just practice it. And of course, get into our certification where we can actually take a much deeper of a dive so you fully understand it, right? But using the push method is how we take ownership, and we do not allow the outside circumstances or the facts to impact our life. Then what we have to do is once we get into that push method, once we start to take ownership, we have to prevent ourselves from self-sabotage. Remember, as you grow, as you start reading these books, your brain is going to get a little bit smarter. It's going to get like, and your head is going to get a little bit more intelligent, and it's going to find new and creative ways to throw you off. But you have to be 1 IQ smarter. Your heart has to be 1 IQ smarter, going, oh, I see what you're doing here. Let me understand why you're trying to get me to think and believe that. because I'm pretty sure it's going to lead me down a path that I don't want to go. And when you get really good at preventing yourself from sabotaging yourself, this is the power of being able to coach yourself, right? Next, you find those limiting beliefs that you use to sabotage. You identify how you actually can, how they make you tick, and really help you to like lean into affirmations to really build that up. One of the other things we talked about after that was identifying your core values and goals that you want to create in your life. Now, when we talk about like self-sabotage, all that kind of stuff, one of the things that could come up is if you don't actually have a goal that you're working towards that is actually in alignment with your core values, your brain's going to tell you, hey, if you work your business, that means you're not going to be a good at mom or a good dad. So you probably don't want to work your business. It's going to kind of like have some ammunition there, because it's true. If you give all of your time and your energy to business, you may not show up as the parent that you want to, right? And that's really why we have to make sure we have a goal. It's in alignment with our core values, and it's an and situation, not an or, okay? Then we talked about leadership. So once you identify what you want to create in the world, it's all about like leadership in terms of leading yourself and coaching yourself, but also setting up structures so that you can lead other people. Because like Jim Rohn says, you can have anything that you want if you help enough people get what they want. And that's that process of leadership, but also the process of the 4 M's. So you can set up boundaries so you're not just giving your time and energy to everyone, all right? Then what I did in the book is I showed you the 3 areas of my personal life that I use these things: my physical, mental health, time management, and family connection. Every single one of those had that first part of me deciding, had me of like, what ownership part do I need to take control of? Had me going through push methods, multiple per day, hundreds and hundreds of them over like that weeks or months that I was really spending time. Self-sabotage, making sure that I didn't self-sabotage, make sure that I started to lead other people. So when people were like, Mark, how are you losing weight? I'm like, oh, let me show you how to do that, because I know it's going to hold me accountable, and it's going to help me help them get results, but also it's going to help me get results in my business, right? And by doing that, in those 3 areas, I was able to excel. And those are 3 areas, whether you're ready to jump into those areas or you have a different area, this framework still applies, all right? And remember, it's always about the tactics and the mindset. And then we ended up talking about boundaries and self-confidence. So boundaries, so you can protect your time and energy. So many people, especially when they first, get going, and some of this might be necessary, but I really feel like so much of it isn't. And that is like saying yes to everyone and having no boundaries in place. And I can tell you, like, having boundaries in place before life gets crazy is even more important than having boundaries after life gets crazy, right? Yes, you're going to learn some lessons. Yes, you're going to find out like, I probably need to have a little bit more boundaries in this area. That's a part of the process, but any problem that you can solve in advance is super important. And then we talked about, like I said, self-confidence. It's really leaning in and understanding that confidence is based off of something in the past, but self-confidence can be something, you can have self-confidence based off of something you've never done before, something totally brand new, something you're ready to totally lean into, because number one, there's people out there who need you on your A game. They need you to show up. They are like literally feeling like there's no hope, but you're willing to feel the fear and do it anyway, because there's only 2 possible outcomes. Either you do it right and you succeed, or you learn and you grow and you actually succeed more. I like this one over here usually a lot more, because it's like I can now empathize with them because I've gone through the pain myself. And so many people can't say that, right? And there you have it. Mastering your life through self-coaching. Now I talked about like what's next, all right? So first off, our next book in our Leadership Business Book Club, if you haven't grabbed it yet, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. I'll leave you the information in the description. Make sure you grab that, because we're actually already starting to read it. So if you're getting to this Thursday, we're starting to read it this week. And then next week, we'll have probably the first or second chapter to dive into. And then we'll still be inside of the app. I do want to hear like all of your takeaways from this actual video today, all right? So from these chapters, actually, let's just say from the whole book, what was your biggest takeaway? What was your biggest takeaway? Not only that, but how are you going to implement that moving forward in your life? And I'll wait here while you respond, even though I'm not probably not here. I don't know. Maybe I will log in Maui and see how many of you guys are actually having conversations in here, because I love having conversations with you guys. But what was your biggest takeaway? And what are you going to do moving forward to implement that? That's really where the power is, all right? Now, your next steps outside of the book club. So if you would like to have a coach, a personal coach, a one-on-one coach, whether it's me or Teresa, I'm going to leave you a link in the show notes so you can apply to become one of our one-on-one clients. We have a few spots that are open. Number 2 is if you want to develop the skill of coaching, if you want to get really good, not only at coaching yourself, but coaching others and really diving into the push method, you can sign up for either the waitlist or the information about our Push Coach Certification School. And of course, if you guys have any questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out, shoot me a message. I appreciate you guys so much, more than you know. And really, like, the power of this book club is this exponential growth, all right? I appreciate you for leaning in, for getting uncomfortable, for being willing to feel the fear and do it anyway. Is what we need now more than ever. Thank you for doing that every single week, and I'll see you guys next Thursday, all right? All right, bye.